The nature of public obsession with celebrity romance has always been a fascinating window into the human psyche, operating as a mirror to our collective desires, nostalgias, and unfulfilled narratives. Every few decades, a story emerges that transcends the standard news cycle, captivating millions not because of its immediate geopolitical impact, but because it taps into a deeply rooted cultural longing for second chances and timeless continuity. When we look at the glitz and glamour of high-profile relationships, we are rarely just looking at two individuals navigating the complexities of romance under a massive spotlight. Instead, we are looking at a carefully constructed modern mythology, where every public appearance, every stolen glance captured by a long-distance lens, and every quiet rumor becomes a chapter in a grand, serialized drama consumed by a global audience. The fascination lies in the narrative arc itself, a story that promises that, despite the passage of intervening decades, the relentless march of time, and the inevitable changes that life imposes on us all, some connections remain entirely unbroken, waiting for the perfect alignment of stars to resurface and claim their place in history. This profound level of public investment is precisely what makes certain reunions feel less like simple tabloid gossip and more like monumental cultural milestones. When two massive icons whose individual careers have already defined eras of music, cinema, and media strategy find their paths crossing once again after a generation apart, the internet does not merely react. It experiences a collective wave of intense nostalgia. It transports millions of people back to a specific moment in time, an era before the complete dominance of modern streaming, when monoculture still ruled and everyone watched the same music videos, read the same magazines, and invested in the exact same power couples. To understand the sheer magnitude of this phenomenon, one must look closely at how the media ecosystem transforms around such events, turning casual observers into dedicated investigators who analyze every pixel of a viral photograph for deeper meaning. It is a testament to the enduring power of high-stakes Hollywood romance, a reminder that in a world filled with unpredictable shifts and constant digital noise, a truly great love story remains the ultimate anchor for public attention. Before we dive deeper into the intricate web of secrets, missed opportunities, and the massive cultural machinery that brought this iconic duo back to the forefront of global attention, take a brief moment to ensure you never miss a single chapter of this unfolding investigative series by subscribing to our platform, allowing you to stay completely connected to every major revelation as we break them down piece by piece. The frenzy we see today is not an overnight accident, but the result of a meticulously laid foundation that began nearly 2 decades ago, during a golden age of traditional media where celebrity status was absolute and unapproachable. In those early years of the new millennium, the world was introduced to a partnership that would redefine the very concept of a power couple, establishing a blueprint that public relations strategists still study to this day. They were everywhere, dominating billboards, movie sets, and red carpets, creating a visual and cultural synergy that seemed completely unstoppable until the immense, suffocating pressure of constant media scrutiny forced a sudden and heartbreaking fracture. For 17 long years, that fracture remained an open question in the minds of pop culture historians and casual fans alike, a classic tale of what could have been if only the timing had been different, or if the spotlight had been just a little less blinding. Both individuals moved on to build separate lives, navigating marriages, families, and massive shifts in their respective professional fields. Yet the ghost of their past partnership never truly vanished from the public consciousness, lingering like a classic melody that everyone remembers but no one expects to hear, played live again. Then, without warning, the quiet whispers began to circulate through the digital ether, starting as mere ripples in the vast ocean of online speculation before exploding into a tidal wave of undeniable reality that captured the imagination of the entire world. It began with subtle hints, brief lookalikes spotted in unexpected locations, and vague insider reports that most skeptics immediately dismissed as clever publicity stunts or meaningless coincidences. But as the days progressed, the evidence grew far too consistent to ignore, culminating in a single definitive visual moment that flashed across millions of screens worldwide, effectively shattering the collective composure of the internet and confirming what everyone hoped but few dared to believe. The excitement was palpable, reminiscent of an era when celebrity news could genuinely stop the world in its tracks, proving that the magic of their initial bond had not been eroded by nearly 2 decades of separation, but had instead matured into something far more compelling. As we stand on the threshold of uncovering how this historic reunion came to fruition, we must first analyze the immense psychological grip this narrative holds over the masses, and why the return of this specific dynamic feels like a glorious resurrection of the ultimate celebrity golden age. The explosion of interest that followed that single viral photograph of Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck kissing was not just a passing social media trend, it was a structural breaking point for the modern attention economy.
Yes.
Understand the sheer velocity of this media storm, one must look at the mechanics of how the public consumes celebrity narratives in the digital age, where a single frame can generate more engagement than a major cinematic release. For weeks leading up to that definitive moment, the digital landscape had been primed with a steady drip of calculated leaks, mysterious sightings, and anonymous insider quotes that kept the public in a state of suspended animation. Skeptics had initially argued that a reconciliation after 17 years was a statistical impossibility, a nostalgic fantasy spun by publicists to generate easy headlines for two stars navigating transitional phases in their personal lives. Yet, when the undeniable visual confirmation finally hit the internet, it did not just validate the rumors, it completely rewrote the rules of celebrity engagement, proving that the classic, larger-than-life Hollywood narrative still possesses an unmatched ability to command global focus. The image itself became an instant cultural artifact, analyzed by millions who dissected the lighting, the positioning, and the undeniable chemistry that seemed to defy the natural progression of time, sending shockwaves through a society that had grown weary of highly orchestrated, sanitized influencer culture. The underlying tension of this reunion lies deep within the historical context of their first collective era, a time when their romance was so intensely commodified that it ultimately collapsed under its own weight. In the early 2000s, the term Bennifer was coined not just as a playful shorthand, but as a multi-million-dollar media brand that fueled an entire industry of paparazzi, weekly tabloids, and early internet gossip blogs. Every step they took was tracked by fleets of photographers. Every career move was evaluated through the lens of their relationship, and their highly publicized engagement became a public spectacle that ultimately proved impossible to sustain. The psychological toll of that relentless surveillance was a major factor in their initial split, leaving behind a narrative of unfinished business that has haunted pop culture commentary for nearly a generation. When they separated just days before their planned wedding, it felt like a definitive cautionary tale about the destructive power of modern fame, a story where the bright lights of Hollywood had permanently burned out a genuine human connection. Therefore, the current revival of this relationship carries an intense, almost cinematic gravity because it represents a direct challenge to that past tragedy, offering a rare real-world narrative where the protagonists get a second chance to confront the very forces that originally drove them apart. As the days progressed following the initial confirmation, the narrative began to expand rapidly, drawing in expert commentary from veteran industry observers who noted that this was far more than a simple romantic rekindling. Media strategists pointed out that the return of Bennifer 2.0 signaled a profound shift in the cultural zeitgeist, marking the definitive return of the traditional celebrity power couple in an era that had been dominated by fractured, hyper-localized social media micro-celebrities. For years, the public had been fed a diet of manicured content from reality television stars and internet personalities. But this reunion reminded the world of what true, global star power looks like. A dynamic where two individuals carry enough cultural weight to shift international news cycles simultaneously. The public fascination quickly turned into an investigative deep dive, with fans and journalists alike tracking their movements from secluded luxury estates in Montana to Mediterranean yachts, transforming their private getaways into high-stakes media events. Every public appearance became a masterclass in narrative control, demonstrating how two seasoned veterans of the entertainment industry could navigate the contemporary media landscape with a level of poise and authority that younger celebrities simply could not replicate. Behind the scenes, the tension was building as the public clamored for more details about how this impossible reunion had actually been orchestrated after so many years of living completely separate lives. Speculation ran rampant regarding who made the first move, what messages were exchanged in the quiet moments before the world found out, and how they managed to keep the initial stages of their reconciliation hidden from the most invasive media network in human history. Reports began to surface, suggesting that the communication had actually begun months prior, operating through low-key, private channels away from the prying eyes of assistants and public relations teams, allowing them to rebuild their foundational friendship in total isolation. This revelation added an entirely new layer of depth to the unfolding drama, painting a picture of two mature individuals who understood exactly what was at stake and intentionally chose to protect their spark until it was strong enough to withstand the inevitable media firestorm. The contrast between their chaotic past and their calculated, protective present approach created a fascinating duality that kept audiences utterly spellbound, eager to see whether this sophisticated, mature version of their love story could successfully survive the immense pressures of a world that had become vastly more connected, digital, and judgmental than the one they left behind in 2004. To fully understand why this grand reunion captivated the global consciousness so completely, one must look past the glittering surface of the contemporary news cycle and analyze the profound biographical trajectories of the two individuals at the center of this modern epic. Jennifer Lopez, born and raised in the Bronx, rose from a dedicated dancer to a global pop phenomenon, an actress of immense range, and a brilliant media mogul who fundamentally reshaped the landscape of entertainment by bridging the worlds of music, fashion, and cinema simultaneously. Her career has always been a masterclass in relentless work ethic and constant reinvention, a journey marked by massive commercial triumphs, record-breaking stadium tours, and a highly publicized personal life that has been dissected by the public for decades. On the other side of this equation stands Ben Affleck, an acclaimed filmmaker, screenwriter, and actor whose journey through Hollywood has been defined by extreme highs and challenging lows, from winning an Academy Award at a remarkably young age for screenwriting to navigating the intense, often toxic pressures of leading major blockbuster franchises while under constant critical evaluation. Both individuals entered the entertainment industry at a time when the traditional star system was reaching its peak, and both paid an immense personal price for their status, making their paths uniquely parallel yet destined to intersect in ways that would repeatedly capture the imagination of the world. Their initial separation in the early 2000s was not just a personal heartbreak but a professional turning point, forcing both to retreat into separate lives where they built entirely different legacies, navigating long-term marriages, raising children, and establishing themselves as foundational pillars of the Hollywood establishment. When their paths finally crossed again in the unique environment of the early 2020s, it felt to the public like the ultimate cosmic resolution. A poetic narrative that suggested true connection could withstand 20 years of absolute silence, separate marriages, and completely different life experiences. The rapid progression from those initial secret meetings to a spectacular intimate wedding in Las Vegas, followed by a massive, elegant celebrations surrounded by family and friends at a historic estate in Georgia, seemed to solidify the ultimate fairy tale ending that audiences had craved for a generation. The media coverage of their marriage reached a fever pitch, with every joint red carpet appearance and family outing celebrated as definitive proof that true love could conquer the relentless passage of time and the destructive nature of modern fame. They successfully blended their families, creating a supportive network for their respective children and demonstrating a level of maturity and mutual respect that seemed entirely unshakable, providing a beautiful example of how past wounds could be healed through patience and shared understanding. For a brief moment in contemporary history, It truly appeared that the ultimate celebrity power couple had achieved total victory over the forces that had shattered their bond 2 decades prior, creating a spectacular, unified empire that dominated both the entertainment industry and the global cultural narrative. Hello! Magazine, however, as pop culture historians and media analysts frequently observe, the reality of living a highly public life under an uncompromising 24-hour digital microscope eventually extracts a heavy toll on even the most resilient and experienced partnerships. By the summer of 2024, subtle fractures began to appear in the carefully constructed narrative, sending ripples of intense speculation through online communities and media outlets worldwide as public appearances grew increasingly rare and separate professional schedules began to dominate their lives. The world watched in absolute fascination and growing concern as rumors of a profound separation escalated, culminating in a historic and emotionally charged development when Jennifer Lopez officially filed for divorce on the exact second anniversary of their traditional wedding celebration. The filing sent shockwaves through the global media ecosystem, marking the end of a highly idealized era and forcing fans to confront the complex, often painful reality that some love stories are meant to be powerful chapters of personal growth rather than permanent, lifelong arrangements. Despite the immense public sadness surrounding the conclusion of their marriage, the subsequent legal proceedings were handled with an extraordinary degree of dignity, maturity, and efficiency, bypassing the destructive, multi-year court battles that frequently plague high-profile Hollywood, split-skied by some of the industry's most prominent legal mediators. The former couple reached an official, private divorce settlement that was finalized at the very beginning of 2025, allowing both parties to retain the vast individual earnings and professional assets they had acquired throughout the duration of their brief marriage. This clean, respectful separation allowed them to protect their deep foundational friendship and prioritize the ongoing well-being of their blended families, ensuring that their children remained connected and supported despite the structural changes in their relationship. In the current landscape of 22/6, both icons have transitioned into remarkably powerful new chapters of their respective lives, channeling the intense emotional energy of their shared journey into profound creative expressions and unprecedented career milestones. Jennifer Lopez has completely illuminated the entertainment world once again by launching a spectacular, record-breaking performance residency in Las Vegas, titled Up All Night Live, while simultaneously preparing for the release of highly anticipated cinematic projects like Kiss of the Spider-Woman. In recent, remarkably candid public reflections, she has described this current phase of her life as a profound era of total freedom, self-discovery, and deep personal healing, openly expressing that she feels more self-assured, independent, and content with her single status than ever before in her legendary career. Hello! Magazine Show 2. Meanwhile, Ben Affleck has maintained his characteristic focus on cinematic excellence, directing and producing powerful new narratives while deliberately keeping his personal life entirely private, far away from the sensationalized headlines that dominated his younger years. The enduring legacy of the Bennifer narrative, spanning nearly a quarter of a century across two completely different eras of human culture, ultimately serves as an unforgettable testament to the sheer power of human connection, showing that even when a relationship concludes, its impact can inspire millions to look inward, embrace personal growth, and find peace within their own journeys. Their story reminds us that the ultimate value of a great love affair is not always measured by its permanent longevity, but by the profound ways it challenges us to evolve, understand ourselves better, and ultimately discover our own true independence in an unpredictable world.